Good afternoon, everybody. It's Nola Hennessy, and it's the 25th of September, Friday, and I'm coming to you from Hope Island in Queensland, in Australia. I'm going to be reading just a couple of paragraphs out of my memoir for you, and then I want to talk about what I raise in these couple of paragraphs. And it's important for us to be continually reflecting on our own personal contribution to the world and how we see ourselves fitting into the bigger picture of humanity. Success is not measured by money, status, power, or possessions. The effort you put into perfecting your soul will be ultimately how you are judged, and the true success of your life measured. There are not always two sides to a story. When an individual wrong is done, it's done by one person through their actions and inactions, most generally, and their words that have been spoken or unspoken. The response to that wrong is owned and chosen by the other. So what I mean by that is that if somebody does wrong by you, your response to what they've done is what you own. Your response is your responsibility and accountability to own. Everyone has a choice to make when they respond. Making a wrong to be owned by the recipient, for instance, if somebody does wrong by you but they project that bad deed onto you, if the perpetrator is doing that, if the person who's done the wrong, then that's how we see the excuses being made for people when they don't own up to a situation or a state of being. And my point here is that is exactly why there is so much injustice, unfairness, and betrayal existing in our world. We don't always get what we deserve, and we don't always receive what we expect that we should. We are sometimes made to endure more than seems right, sometimes far more than seems right. However, to know in your heart that you have done everything right through the whole journey of life and have acted selflessly in all your decisions, your soul will be the one at peace in the end. Now, the whole point about that particular section is towards the end of my memoir, The Peace Angel, I have a rather reflective chapter that's called the Epilogue, and I go very much into more detail about my journey, my spiritual journey, and the traits that we are, our personality traits that we embody in our physical being is reflective of the level of maturity of our soul. So when our spiritual journey is actually far shorter than somebody else's spiritual journey, the personality traits that come through and the deficiencies associated with that personality, things like greed and lack of patience and an abusive tendency, or a super level of needing to have control and power over other people, or an addictive sort of tendency. Those spiritual deficiencies will eventually, for that soul, evolve out. So each time the soul matures, the next personality that soul manifests through is a more refined personality. But ultimately, look, there are many points in here, and I talk about, it's needless to take revenge. I talk about that early in my memoir, but also later as well. Revenge is such a ridiculous, stupid thing to do. Doesn't get anybody anywhere. And you've got to have confidence that universal justice will prevail when things don't go to plan. And the perfect example is a phone call that I had this morning where things just completely went off track. And yet, as one door has started to close for the time being, another two doors flung open within a matter of hours. So you have to have confidence that whilst ever you're making the right choices and you're doing good, that karmic return will be a good karmic return. And you've got to maintain a level of patience, tolerance, understanding. You can't control everything. And one of the key things is to let go of the emotional effort that you put into thinking about stuff. If you don't have control over somebody else's decision making, you've got to let go and let God. There's a saying I've heard many times, let go and let God. And it's very true. It's a bit like letting go to the universe to then bring you a better outcome. For whatever reason, that's something that didn't happen for a reason. And you might be really hanging on that happening. And when it doesn't, if you don't have a contingency, then it can be devastating. But always having a contingency, having a backup plan, having a fallback position or a fallback mentality is always a better way to go. Now, in terms of the points that I raised when I read out that couple of paragraphs, success is not about the size of car the amount of money in the bank. Your success as a human being will be measured ultimately at the end of your life by the effort that you have put in to refining yourself at a spiritual level. So last week I talked about resilience and experience being interrelated and interdependent. Absolutely true. If you don't experience and learn from experiences and grow your resilience, your soul is actually not going to mature as quickly as it could. A lot of people say, oh, so and so has never changed. They've always been the same. Well, in fact, that's a shame from my perspective, is that person has not learned how to grow from their experiences. They would have had experiences, but maybe not robust enough that they actually had the opportunity to learn from those experiences. And therefore, their spiritual journey has, through their physical lifetime, has been somewhat bland. Like they would not necessarily have developed a greater insight into themselves, a heightened level of self-awareness, true self-intelligence. I'm going to continue reading particular sections of my memoir because there's a lot of my life learnings that I've adapted into here. But what I want to do also is read a quote from Cal Blair, who was one of the reviewers of my autobiography when I first wrote the unedited manuscript, very, very deeply personal early manuscript version. And Calvin was one of the most outstanding Victorian police commissioners. He was directly responsible for preventative measures that were taken after the Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania, where we had a change in firearm laws, and he was very proactive and very positive. He's had personal experience with a number of deeply traumatic events, the Russell Street bombing, things like that. And he looked at my memoir, a man of mature age, and he looked at my memoir with open eyes and made the following comment. And this is not meant to be a pat on the back for me, but this is word for word what he wrote. Nola is a remarkable person, and the honesty of her entire autobiography and beliefs shines through. I am totally impressed with her ability to overcome adversity and consistently and skillfully produce outstanding results. There are a number of powerful and positive messages in this book that many people would do well to take on board. And, that comment alone reinforces to me that even somebody who, Kel's old enough to be my dad, but I respect him as a professional and as a person, and have a deep level of commitment to him as a person. When he makes that kind of comment, he does so with a discerning eye. And the positive messages that are in the Peace Angel are ones that I want to share with you, and I will share with you until I feel like I've kind of covered the repertoire of key topics. I hope your week going forward is a fabulous one. I'm certainly focused on these two doors that have opened for me and making sure that one of those doors produces the result that I need. And you've got to stay focused on an outcome. When you let go of something, it never happens. So if you really want something to happen, don't let go. Have a great week, and I'll see you next weekend, more likely. Bye for now.